There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princess of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt, and welcome to another podcast where I talk about things. Well, mainly Highlander, right? It's called Prince of the Universe. We should be talking about Highlander a lot. So I'm so happy I'm doing these books, right? Finally matches up to the name of my podcast. But before I do that, I always got to start off with a little story, right? Since it's just me going solo, I have no one to bounce these ideas off, or I can't talk about these books. It's almost like Bruce didn't have the time to pick up 200 pages. Nah, if it's not an audiobook, he's not going to read it. If it was audiobooks, he would read it and he'd be with me. But he's someone who likes to read audiobooks now. A lot of people, and that's okay, I guess, but a lot of people are audiobooks. Are you really reading an audiobook? I think you're just listening to it. As you know, in the past, Steve and someone else who was on the podcast while we were doing our reviews of Robert Jordan, he does audiobooks too. They both do, and I'm fine with that. I'm not an audiobook guy. I like reading a book. I like reading. I don't like, digital books either. I like a nice book I can just read through on my own. So much fun. No better feeling as you're moving through the pages and slowly coming to the end. It's almost like you're climbing a mountain. You feel accomplished. You've accomplished something if you've read a book. And so that's kind of how I feel when I read through a novel. I'm like, yeah, I did that. You have been conquered, book. Bring on the next book. And you start off, you're like, ooh, I got a long way to go. It's going to be a long journey. But as you read and enjoy that book, you make your way through that journey. I don't know, I'm kind of making this a little bit better than what most people would imagine it as. But that's really how I see it. That's really how I see reading a book, like a conquest. These were like easy conquests because they only last a couple hundred pages. Read most of them in just a couple of days. Picked up one book and like 2 days later or a day later, I was reading on to the next one. So, and plus they were enjoyable too. That's the other thing. I've had books that just aren't that enjoyable and they're kind of a slog to read through, and that gets hard, man. It gets hard to read through those. Now, for the last time we did Robert Jordan, I did listen to the audiobook because I was convinced by the other two. I'd never heard the audio version of it. I'd read the book the first time through, the Robert Jordan books, and so I was fine trying out the audio for them, and it was fine, I deep down, I did prefer reading. I did do a hybrid, though, because the audio book wasn't the best. I do it when I'd walk with my girls a lot. I used to walk them a whole lot more back then because they were itty-bitties back then. They didn't walk on their own. So it was hard for them to tucker themselves out at night, so I had to push them around for like hours on end until they finally tuckered out. But back then, when I'd go walking or anything like that, go to the treadmill at the gym, I was always listening to the audiobooks. But other than that, I'd kind of stop at a certain chapter and then pick up in the book and just speed through it at night. So I kind of did a hybrid of both, and I really enjoyed the books. The only thing about an audiobook that's convenient, it's convenient when you're walking. I'm not someone who can be doing something else while doing an audiobook. I got to focus on the audiobook. I could mow my lawn, I could do housework around if it's nothing, if it's just menial chores, I could do that and listen. But anything else, like I'm trying to write email or work, I can't listen. I'll find myself not listening, or I'll find myself listening to the audio and not doing my work. So that just doesn't work for me. It's just not for me. But I know audiobooks are a big thing, and I'm kind of glad these books aren't on audio, but I think probably every book should be on audio because that way more people would listen to it. And that's the good thing about audiobooks. It gets more people into the written prose. I was going to say reading. You're not really reading. You're basically listening to the story. But that's fine. As long as you listen to and enjoy the story, I think that's good too. Enjoying a good story is always good. That's why during the whole pandemic, I've just been binge reading, not really binge watching anything. I tried binge watching a few things, like for the third time ever. I tried to watch that awful show, Fear the Walking Dead. We tried the first time, me and my wife gave up on it. Then I said, I'm going to try again. Then I gave up on it. And then early when the pandemic first started, I said, I'm going to do it again. I forced myself to watch, I think it was season 3 or season 4 next. And it was even worse. I said, this is the worst show in the world. And so I still couldn't watch it. It was just so bad. And that was the first season they had Morgan. I thought, well, maybe I'll enjoy it more. And I did not. I did not enjoy it more. I just thought it was worse. So everything about it just was not good for me. Not good. And I think when I tried to start the next season, I just couldn't anymore. I said, I can't do this anymore. I literally just can't do this. This is just awful for me. So stopped that, and couldn't find anything else to watch, and then started picking up books and just burning through them, and that's what I've been doing. I mean, heck, the reading that I've been doing now that I'm just done with. I mean, I wasn't planning to read these Dune books, which is what I was currently reading, till next year. That was going to be next year's books, but now I've completed those. I'm moving on to the next one. So it's been crazy. But reading, and I mean, I even added the Highlander books there. They weren't even on my monitor, on my radar, I should say, back when this whole thing started, because I didn't really care about them. Then I got them, read those too. So I've had a lot of other things impromptu. A lot of my brother's books I've read just in between. So I've gotten through a lot of reading and a lot of books lately, and that's fun for me. It's a fun thing to do. Reading and board games, man, my two favorite things, my two favorite hobbies right there. But anyway, that wasn't the story I wanted to tell. The story I wanted to tell was I went to a flea market a few months ago during the summer when we went on our beach vacation. And there's this excellent flea market. In fact, I'm kind of thinking if me and my wife we're about to go back down to the beach, hopefully, in a short time from now. And so I was telling her maybe we can hit that flea market on our way back up. This flea market is probably the second best flea market or antique place I've ever been to. The first one would be this place called Brass Armadillo in Phoenix. That's really awesome. But to be honest, a decent, respectable second place is the Mobile Flea Market. That place has a lot of churn. It has a lot of good items. In fact, after I left, there's a few other items I might would have picked up. There's a few things I was thinking, should I get that? Maybe I should get that. So there's next time I go, I may pick up something else too. But I remember this past summer, I wanted to pick up a pocket knife. I've had pocket knives for years, and I don't really use them as much as I used to back in the day, but it's always nice to have one. And I have one left, and it's getting kind of old. It's the blade, the tip was chipped a long time ago. I don't know what I was trying to do with it. I opened boxes up with it. It's gotten a little loose. The screws that kind of keep it together have been stripped over time. I've tried tightening it, and one time it was my fault. I tried to tighten it too much because I didn't want it to be wiggly again. I think I stripped it because it just won't, or something won't happen inside. It won't just tighten in. So it's a little loose, a little wobbly. And every time I stick it or try to use it, I'm thinking, is this thing going to break off? Is the blade going to break off now? So it's just getting older. I said, well, I'll just get a nice pocket knife. Because they have a billion pocket knives at flea markets and antique stores, and most of them are pretty cheap. And I remember seeing a lot of places that sold these for really cheap. So that's what I decided to do. Well, my oldest nephew was with us traveling down this summer, and so we stopped at the same place, and he knew pocket knives. I didn't know he knew what all the ins and outs of pocket knives. So we finally reached the knife dealer, and I'm going up to him, and I see a thing of knives. He has throwing knives, switchblades and everything. He said, these knives, these are switchblades, these are pop knives, some of them probably illegal in certain states. But I was like, it's a flea market. They don't care. At the black market of pocket knives there. And so I was like, well, let me see this one. I saw it. It was nice, kind of normal. And I was like, well, that's probably all I need. And so how much? He's like, $60. I was like, $60? Goodness gracious. And I was like, man, I thought these were like $5 or $10, at flea markets. So I was like, okay, well, thank you. Can I have your card? And, took his card. I had no intention of getting a knife from him. And I kind of walked away kind of bummed because I was like, well, dang, I thought pocket knives, because I used to see them all the time for like $5, $10. And they were decent pocket knives. And as we're about to leave, it caught the corner of my eye. There's a little tray of pocket knives on this table with a bunch of other things. And I walk up there and I start looking. He said, yeah, they're $5 each. And I was like, $5? And the exact, here's the thing, the exact same knife, the exact same. I even talked to my nephew. I said, isn't this the exact same knife? He went, yeah, that's the same knife. I was like, so the same knife that guy was trying to sell for $60 was for $5 there. The only thing about this one, there's a little paint that was chipped on the front. It didn't really bother me that much. I care about the knife more than the emblem or whatever picture on it. But the knife was good, you know. But the thing is, though, it has this little bump on the side. I didn't know how to open the pocket knife. I felt like a doofus because usually you just pulled it out back in the day. My old one you pull out, or you have to press down and release. This one, it just has this little bump in the back. Basically, you just press through it and just flips up automatically. Man, it's been years. I don't know pocket knife technology. So my nephew's showing that, and then he's showing me another one that I almost got, but I didn't. But he's like, "Oh, cool! This one has like a seatbelt thing." Or I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, if you get in a wreck and your seatbelt gets caught on you, you can hook this up and just tear right through it." What? Is that really what it's there for? It's like a little hook with a little knife in it. And I was like, I didn't understand. It was like one of the ends of the pocket knife. So here's my oldest nephew, the pocket knife expert, and telling me about all these features. So then I'm walking off. I buy it, and I was thinking about buying, you know, all three. Yeah, they had three with particular designs I liked. And I was like, man, I think I'll buy all three. It's like, you made a good choice. This is a popular design. And so we go off. We go home. Well, we're not going home. We're going to the beach. We take a turn down the street. It's busy. It's under construction, and we just stay there for like half an hour. And I'm like, this sucks. Let's turn around. There's an opposite way to go. It's a little bit longer, but it won't be, you know, it'll be a shortcut compared to this because we hadn't moved. We barely moved in 30 minutes, and we weren't even close to the highway. I was like, we're not going to make it here. So we turned around, and we're going the opposite way. Well, during that, my nephew was kind of bemoaning the fact that he didn't pick up a knife too, because as he kept playing with mine, he's like, man, it's a really good knife. Man, that's a really good knife. I mean, I could use another knife like this. It's a really good knife. He just kept telling me, he's like, man, I mean, he said, just feels good. It's got good health to it. He's telling me about all this knife. I said, well, dude, you should have got one. I told you. Yeah, no, probably should. Only $5. That's a good deal for $5. And so as we're driving back the opposite way, I said, well, hey, you just want to stop in there? Because I'm thinking, I may pick up those other two knives. They're only $5 each, and I love the design, so why not get them? He's like, yeah, let's go. So we drove back in there, and thankfully the guy was at the front of the parking lot, so we didn't have to go deep into the flea market there. So we went in there, and the dude had sold the other knives. I mean, in like 30 minutes, the other two knives I was looking at, he'd sold them. In fact, he had a lot of different knives out there. So I guess someone came in behind me and cleaned him out of pocket knives. Maybe the guy who sold pocket knives found out this guy was selling the same design for, you know, 95% off, and went and bought his stock. But I went there was a lot of different knives, but my nephew was fine because he just picked out one. He thought about getting two. I thought about getting another one, but I didn't really like, you know, do I need one with a blazing skull on it? Not really. You know, do I need one that says Harley Davidson? No, I don't care about that. You know, or one with a spider on it or a spider web. You know, I was like, yeah. And so I didn't really get. Now there was a Batman one, but the Batman was like $12 or $15. It was a little bit more because it was a Batman knife. You know, that's the only reason. You're paying for the emblem that's on the knife there. And it wasn't very practical either. So, but my nephew got a good knife, and then we went in. We were both playing with our knives and everything. Like, look at this, flipping it out, putting it back in, flipping it out, putting it back in. And I'm driving while I'm doing this too. So, and my wife's just kind of rolling her eyes at the both of us because we are pocket knife savvy now. But I love my new pocket knife. I still have the old one. Keep it here in the back room. That's what kind of got me on the subject here. I looked at it, I was like, oh, there it is. And it's kind of wobbly and everything. And it is old, and it is super thin. I mean, I guess it was a cheap old knife that I got, you know. It may be a Walmart one time or something. I don't know, but it's a cheap-looking knife. It's got a plastic body case. It's not really that nice. Now that I'm looking at my new one, I'm like, ooh, got me a premium knife now, pocket knife. And yes, it does open boxes. What it's meant to do. It cuts cords too. I'm sure I'll use it for other things too. But you always need a pocket knife, man. You always need a pocket knife. I remember there was a lady one time who told me, she got me a handkerchief. And she went, a gentleman should always have a handkerchief. And she gave it to me as for my high school graduation, I remember. It was like, a handkerchief. And she gave me like a couple of them. I was like, screw that. Dude, use those handkerchiefs all the time. When I have a cold, instead of going through a million Kleenexes, blow your nose into, it sounds disgusting, blow your nose into a handkerchief, fold it around, blow it again. Handkerchief can take a lot of snot, okay? And then you wash it. Thing's brand new, feels great, soft, you know, just as soft as a tissue, but better because it's more firm. And you can blow your nose in it several times. You don't have to look for a tissue because you can't, those little packets of tissues, those are awful things, man. They're so tiny, they do nothing. They do nothing for you. You're supposed to carry them around in your pocket or ladies in a purse. But I'm telling you, handkerchiefs, man, fit in your pocket. You can blow your nose several times in them. And then later on, when you get home, you just wash it. And I have several of them, and I love those things. I don't know where you go to buy handkerchiefs these days in the store, but I'll be honest. I'd probably buy a few more. I probably would. I mean, I got 3, and 3 is probably enough. But like I said, I don't use them for cold season. But that's one thing, a practical item. There you go, practical items that I always love that I never thought I really needed. I'll give you one more. I'm going to get to my review. You know my reviews are kind of short on this because it's just me talking, but I'll get to my review in a minute. But I want to get to one more thing, practical item that I always use around the house. My grandmother, back when she was this is the last present she ever gave me. She was 96 at the time, getting close to 97 before she passed away. And that summer, before she passed away, just a few months before she passed away, she wanted to get me a birthday present. And my mom, I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing my mom took her to Cracker Barrel because this is where I saw them again. So, and I guess she just, being an old lady, was looking around the Cracker Barrel shop and said, oh, and she picked up and she told my mom, she went, I'm getting this for Matt for his birthday. And my mom's like, okay, that's weird. Because it was a little mini spatula. It's like a little tiny spatula, and it has a little round piggy at the base. And I remember I opened it. I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Everyone needs a little." No, it's not a spatula. It was a little whipper stirrer, with a little mixer. She went, "Everyone needs a little whip." That's what she told me. Everyone needs a little whip. And I was like, okay. And I kept it, brought it back to my kitchen, told my wife about it. We laughed about it. She went, why would she give you this? I have no idea. You basically hold it. I hold it with like 3 fingers and whip up little things. Dude, I use that little whip all the time. Even today. I mean, just 2 days ago, I used the whip. And I freak out if I don't have it. Because you do need a little whip. The big whisker, the whipper there and everything, I don't use that anymore. It seems clunky to me. It doesn't seem that good. Even on projects where I probably should get it, and I do. Whenever I'm making pancakes, I get out the big whipper. But that thing it doesn't feel to me like it does a good job. I cook a lot of eggs. I like them scrambled, so I'll whip the eggs together. I'll whip a few other things together. But anytime I can, I use that little whip. I love the feel of it, the convenience. It's easy to clean. It feels a lot sturdier than a bigger whip would. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But my grandmother, maybe she wasn't crazy. Maybe she was really serious. Everyone needs a little whip. And I had it. And the reason I say Cracker Barrel, because I did see them a few years back. I was like, oh, this is where she got them. Because I was like, where did she get this whip? And every once in a while, my little girls will steal the whip. I have it next to the, because I mix hot cocoa with it and everything too. So we have it next to the coffee machine, the little, what's it called, Keurig, and the girls will get on their tiptoes and they'll snatch it, and I freak out when I can't find it, and we have to do a big search of their toy bin to find where they threw it. They take it and throw it in their toy bin. But I love that little whip, man. That's one thing. Whip, handkerchief, a few things in life you need, pocket knife. Yeah, you can always do with one. I used to think like that when I was out of college. I used to think, what are some things that I need, like necessities? Not that I want, but I need. And I still use those things today, like a battery tester for your car battery. Still have it. Still used it the other day. Used it a few weeks ago. My battery went dead, and tested it, and it was dead. All right. At first, I forgot I had one. And then, like, little tools, which now they're all missing. I let someone borrow them. Unfortunately, I don't know who that was, and they never gave them back. So I'm going to have to ask for more tools again. But I asked for a little air pump. Get an air compressor. Get a little air pump. It's awesome. I fill up my own tires that way. Everyone uses my air pump. My wife uses the air pump. My family said, Matt, can you bring your air pump? Yeah, I'll bring your air pump. It's easy to, and I lost the connectors to it, but it's easy to fill up like inflatables, swimming inflatables and stuff like that. And so it's really handy. It's really neat. I remember I asked for it a long time ago when I was asking, I have a car jack too. That I can jack up the car with, something easy, not the little twister thing that comes with your car, or did come with your car back in the day. I hated that little pack. So I wanted a big heavy-duty one for Christmas. My parents got me one. That was back before we were all married, and they only had 6 kids to buy for. Now we'll never get something that nice again. But I'm glad I asked for it when I got it. Now the only thing I need to get is a generator. I only think about that, though, when the lights go out. The lights don't always go that bad, but this past storm was pretty big, so probably need to get those. But, hey, general things around the household that you need. There you go. Maybe a discussion for another time. I've got to get to review this book. Thanks for hearing me digress. Here we go. The book is called Shadow of Obsession. And let me just go ahead and tell you, this is a Darius story. You know from the cover, because it has Darius and Duncan, and it's from season 1. The picture's from season 1. When they, I guess, meet on the battlefield, and basically that's kind of how it opens up too. This is, I should mention, book is written by Rebecca Neeson. Don't know who that is. Again, the only person I was familiar with was Jennifer Robinson, who I thought did a great job. But Shadow of Obsession is basically Duncan reflects back on meeting Darius again for the first time at the Revolutionary War. It kind of takes place a little during that scene after he meets him, and they start having some more talks together. And to be honest, I wasn't into it at first. I was happy to see Darius because I love Darius as a character. He's only in season 1, and the actor died, which is why they had to kill him off. But, as I was reading it, I was like, this is nice. I understand where they are and what they're trying to flash back to, but it's just about war, and Darius is trying to lead him into a way of peace, and he should set aside his sword and do what's right. And Duncan's like, no, I am doing what's right. I'm defending these people or whatever, because, Duncan's got to fight the good fight. And Darius is telling him not to. Later on, he meets this another immortal named Cynthia. Okay? Now, that's kind of where it ends, and now we move back. And this is where it gets not just good, folks. It gets great. Okay? They go to flashback to 709 AD. Now, this is back when Darius was evil, because we knew Darius used to be super badass back in the day, right? He was this big conqueror. He could have taken Rome and everything. Remember, in the first season, one of the best villains ever, Grayson, is basically mad because Darius just kind of left him high and dry when they were on the cusp of taking over the Roman Empire. They could have ruled it all, and Darius was a fool, and that's why he hates him, because he kind of gave up when they were right there and disbanded the army. And so this is the story of that. This is the exact story. He was back when he was Darius the Mad, and he didn't care about anyone, and Grayson was his right-hand man. In fact, they show where Grayson had died, and Darius had taught him the ways, we're immortal. We can do whatever we want. We can get whoever we want. We're gods. They're nothing. They're playthings. You play with them. They're nothing big. Darius cares nothing about anything but power. And it's really cool to see this other side of Darius. It's really awesome because you'd heard of it. And yes, it kind of harkens back to a little mythos thing they got going on with Darius. But it's really awesome. So Darius is a cool guy. He doesn't care about anyone. They're fighting with this Roman, I can't remember what his status is. He's got a pretty big status, but he's kind of all pomp and no show. Yeah, he doesn't really show that many skills. He's kind of a moron. But his sister, who is called Callistina, is in love with Darius. But she is a foolish girl, and Darius says that. But, hey, Darius will sleep with her. He don't care. And she loves him, and Darius kind of laughs. But she thinks that's because he loves her. He doesn't. He doesn't care about her one bit. But later on, she dies. She becomes immortal. Okay? And now she's like, oh my gosh, and she knows that Darius is immortal. Now we can be together forever. But Darius basically just gets tired and says, woman, I don't care about you. Just go away. You're no fun anymore. Get out of here. I was just using you anyway. I don't care about women. I care about conquering. And so it's crazy. Now Grayson has been in love with this girl forever, and he's been wanting to bet her. So when Darius, basically just throws her away, of course, Grayson comes to her aid. And so she's with Grayson for a little while. She becomes Grayson's lover. And as you know, of course, we're going to have, a showdown here later on. Callistina is going to hate Darius. I don't know why I'm not remembering his name. Anyway, so it starts off where Darius is on his way to do some conquering. They're going to do some some big. This is the cusp of the war where it's about to turn over, and Darius has this big plan. But there's a super old immortal who's been around since prehistoric time, and he has no name and whatnot, and he's kind of a priest, and so he kind of approaches Darius, and there's almost a challenge issued, so they go away, and as they fight, the monk or whatever lets Darius kill him. As Darius takes in his quickening, it's a light quickening. Kind of like how Duncan got a dark quickening and became evil. There's so much good and love and understanding in this monk that it affects Darius. And Darius at first is like, oh, he doesn't know what happened to him, but he knows he's changed. He kind of sees it, and he kind of curses the old man because now he sees what he means. And yes, I'm wasting my life. If I'm immortal, I should be helping humanity instead of conquering it. And so he doesn't know what to do because he's not the same man. And so he goes up to Grayson. He's like, look, everything I taught you is a lie. We need to change things. We need to reverse history. We can do things differently. And Grayson can't believe what he's hearing because he respects Darius. He loves Darius. Darius is his hero, his idol. You know, he's Darius's right-hand man. He'll never betray Darius. Sure, he was in love with Darius' girl. He was mad that Darius had, that the girl had chose Darius and Darius didn't care about him. But he was mad at the girl more than he was at Darius. And now Darius wants to quit. Now Darius has gone all goody two-shoes on him. Everything he said to him is a lie. What's that crap? And so this is the story about how Grayson gets infuriated with Darius, and he tries to lead the army, but the army just doesn't feel as confident without Darius. They don't even know what happened to Darius. Darius just quit, and they're like, what? And so Grayson tries to lead the army, but he doesn't. He fails because he's not the big leader that Darius is, and hence the rivalry is formed where he despises Darius. Darius threw away world domination, and so you flash forward to today. Well, Victor Paulus, who is immortal, he was also in the second season, I think, of Highlander. He was that student of Darius's. It's just a throwaway. He's trying to establish peace. He's trying to live out Darius's life of peace. It's one of Darius's mortal students, and he's a friend of Duncan's. And like I said, you can Google him because he's also been in the series before. But he introduces Duncan to his fiancée, who he's going to marry, a girl named Cynthia. Cynthia happens to be Calistenia, whatever. And Luke, goodness gracious, Duncan, it's way too late for me to do this podcast. Duncan finds out who she is. Duncan knows exactly who she is. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You couldn't kill Darius because, Horton did. So now you're going after the next best thing, his prize student, the person who's supposed to fulfill Darius's mission. You're trying to kill Darius's dream of peace. And so he approaches Cynthia, who wants to fight him, and they call her Cynthia. They don't call her Calistina, but I'm guessing that's because Duncan always knew her as Cynthia because she was Cynthia during the Revolutionary War. Anyway, they fight. Duncan beats her and says, I'm not going to take your head. You're a woman, going to be nice, but you need to go. And so she promises to leave. Of course she doesn't leave. She kills Victor anyway. And then Duncan has to kill her. Duncan, I told you, so Duncan has to kill her. So, and you knew in the book that, if Duncan was going to let her go, she was not going to let this die. So she kills Victor Paulus. Another character from the TV show dies. It's all well and good. I never really cared about Victor Paulus either. I found him rather boring. I found that episode rather boring. But at least it's another character killed. And Duncan saves the day. The best thing, this is a really good one though. Shadow of Accession is one of the best ones out there. Because, again, this one deals with Darius's past. I love Grayson. Absolutely love Grayson. But one of the best episodes in Season 1 is the Grayson episode. And now you get to hear the story of the beef between Darius and Grayson. And that's mainly what the bulk of this story is. It's about that flashback. And for that reason alone, it is well worth your time. It is well worth your time. Absolutely love. This is a good one. Put a circle, put a check mark by it. Shadow of Obsession is phenomenal, especially if you love Darius. Darius was a very memorable character in the first season, so he's not easy to forget, especially because he was in most of that season. He was supposed to be Duncan's moral compass. And I think that's why Joe and the Watchers came in, because they had to have someone replace Darius, and I think that was Joe, which was probably the better idea, because I like Joe being mortal and not being able to connect to Duncan as Darius might have. But still, Darius lived too short in the show, so I'm glad they gave him a chance in the novels to breathe a little and build his character up. Fantastic book. All right, folks, that is all the time I have for now. We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.